Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Franklin Community High School Career Exploration Project. Today we have with us Dr. Shawn Hurst. He is a lecturer in biology at the University of Indianapolis. Shawn, thank you for taking this time to come and join me today.
Oh, my pleasure. I
Um,
apologize. I'm not in my office at work with all my fancy books behind me. Instead, because of COVID, I'm teaching from home, and this is the bonus room, right, where the kid plays. And so, honestly,
It looks like
that's
a
the only
good
thing I can do.
experimentation room. A bunch of like this. You got the table back there. I think you could still
Yeah.
do
So, it so happens that my girlfriend is a high school art teacher, and that's a prep area for her art. So, my more academic sort of area is to the side.
There you
Okay,
go.
where I have like my anatomy models and my books, and Casey,
Oh,
who likes to bomb my video meetings and classes,
hey,
but my students love him.
I would
So
I would be honored if he bombed us here at some point.
yes.
So, talk about your role as a lecturer and kind of what that entails, and also how you got there as far as education wise and things like that.
I'll talk about the most exciting parts first. So I'm a scientist and a teacher, and as part of that, I go to Africa and I study wild animals and their behavior. I've studied chimpanzees in the wild, and baboons, and lions, and elephants, and that sort of thing. And I take students with me when I go, and
Okay.
we also dig up fossils. And actually, my specialty is like how brains compare. Okay, like the evolution of the brain, and so I look at like MRIs and CT scans of like humans and grade 8 brains, and then I look at the fossils that show changes between them. But I also study their behavior and human behavior, because the behavior comes from the brain. So I do that, and which is a lot of fun and really exciting. And I take students with me, and they really like it. So I had students who took my class like 12 years ago, and they're adults now, and they're married, and they have kids, and they still say it's the most exciting thing that they've ever done. So which is great. I also teach at the University of Indianapolis, right? And mostly what I teach is anatomy and physiology and brain and behavior, and I teach that to like students with healthcare majors who are
Mhm.
going to go into nursing or medicine or dentistry or respiratory therapy or occupational therapy or physical therapy. So, so these are people who are on health career tracks, who want to get into healthcare. And I used to work in healthcare. I used to work in the surgery center at Riverview Hospital in Noblesville, Indiana.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm from Indiana. And then I used to work at a nursing home for handicapped children, so I know what the healthcare system is like, and I have lots of family members who are like nurses and that sort of thing, and lots of friends who are medical doctors, and so I give them advice on how to get into healthcare professions, which, as we all know, is more important now than ever.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
definitely. So, what kind of led you to this profession?
when I was a freshman in college, I had worked in healthcare before I went to college, and I liked it. But I also liked to do research, and I didn't know that I actually wanted to like stay in healthcare. But I liked like the knowledge surrounding healthcare. And then when I was a freshman in college, I took a class just on a whim, and it had lots of like anatomy in it, and lots of the things that I sort of do. And I realized someone has to teach the doctors, right? And I like teaching, and I thought, wow, I'd like to do that, and my professor said, well, you could. And I was the first person in my family to go to college, and it didn't even occur to me that I could like become a college professor. And my professor said, yeah, you can. You can become a college professor. Um, and I decided that that's what I was going to do. So it helped that when I was in high school, I'd taken like biology and psychology and history.
Mm-hmm.
So those were, and I took, I took college prep courses. So, but yeah, so that really helped when I was in high school.
Okay. So what are some of the pros? Obviously, the traveling to Africa for you, that would be an
Yeah.
obvious pro. What are some of the things also that maybe some of the cons, some things you don't like as much?
Um, I would lecture for free, but they have to pay me to grade. Um, I'm gonna tilt my camera just a little bit. Okay. Well, obviously you can often have like summers off, right? And that's like great. That's a good pro. Um, and my schedule is I don't actually spend as much. I don't spend all day lecturing, right? When you're in college, you don't you're not spend as much time in class, but you spend a lot of time outside of class doing stuff. We have so a lot of the administration of the university is done by the professors, and so there's a lot of work outside of class. So even though I don't spend as much time in class as a regular teacher does, I usually spend more than 40 hours a week working. Like, I mean, the days can be long, and because you're doing administrative stuff and service stuff, and you're advising students, and so in many ways, students need more advice because they're that much closer to the careers, and the work is more complicated, and you're helping them to understand what it is to be a professional, how to behave professionally, be able to write a professional like report, how to connect socially with their coworkers, how to like lead, like say a group or a group project, to be in charge of, and so how to write like a resume or a curricular vitae, a CV is, as we call it, because that's a little bit different than a resume. We try to also give them the social skills that are necessary to be a professional, like on the job market.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that sort of thing. So and then our own research on top of that.
Right.
So so the hours are long, but I get to pick them. So, I work more than 40 hours a week, but I get to pick which 40 hours they are, which means sometimes if I have to go do something in the morning, like go grocery shopping or pay some bills or whatever, I can do that. But it means that I'm going to have a late night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. you gotta sacrifice one for the other, right?
Yes. Yeah. You can move it around, but you can't cut it.
Yeah. So as far as just the person as a whole who wants a role in the, maybe the professor field or lecturer or anything like that, the research, what type of person would be good for it, and what type of person may find it a little bit of a struggle?
So people who are like really intellectually curious, okay, would be good for that. People who so if the thought of standing up in front of 100 people and talking terrifies you, then this is probably not a good job for you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's, it isn't the case. So, I mean, it doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily have to be like an extrovert. Like, there are lots of introverts who are professors. They like to study their own thing. Okay. But they also have no problem getting up and talking in front of a group of people. I mean, afterwards they may be tired and they may want to go off to their office and like just, be by themselves for a little bit. But if in fact if you're so self-conscious that talking in front of a large group of people, or having people like debate with you, which is not to like say like, arguing, like screaming, but
Right.
like people go, well, you said this and you published it in a paper, right? In a journal, and I disagree with you, and here's why. And then they publish that. Okay. And if that seems uncomfortable to you, then, if you don't like that kind of it's debate, really. But
right.
if
Yeah. I was gonna say questioning your work or something.
yes. And then if you don't feel comfortable telling someone else, well, you know what? So like I'm Professor Shawn Hurst, and I think you're wrong, and I'm going to publish this paper saying why, and and then you bump into someone at a conference and you go, "Hi, I'm Shawn Hurst. Who are you?" And they go, "I'm so and so, and I'm the one that wrote the paper that you just criticized." And you're like, "Oh, hi."
Yeah, that would probably be a negative for that. So, so you talked about the classes you took in high school. What kind of classes do you think someone who wanted to get into this profession should take, and how would they prepare for it?
You should take college prep courses. So there's my profession at the university. But being a university professor itself, there are lots of different kinds of university professors. So if you're like, a history buff in high school, you can become a history professor. That doesn't mean you have to take the classes that I took, But if you want to be a biology professor, you should take more biology, There are people who are who are college professors who are like athletic coaches, and then they focus, more on, for them, it's more, in addition to being involved in sports, psychology is very important. Right? Because if you're going to be a coach, you need to know a lot about psychology because you need to motivate, your athletes. But it's important to take college prep courses. You want to get into college, and you want to get into a good college. And then once you're there, you want to early on, early on they have you take a wide variety of classes because the average college student changes their major like twice before they graduate. Because you're not even aware of what some of the majors are because you're not exposed to that at all in high school. So take lots of different kinds of classes. If something seems interesting to you, even if you don't think you can immediately make money from it, take that course. And if you find something that really thrills you, then find a mentor or multiple mentors. Okay. And then talk to them outside of class, not just in class, but go to their office hours. Tell them early that you are interested in doing what they do. Okay. Most people find that flattering, and they spent their whole lives studying this. So they like it. They like to talk about it, and then they like to teach. So they want to be your mentor. And in fact, that's part of their job is to mentor you. And they prefer people who come to them early because, the sooner they can start mentoring you, the greater the impact they will have, and the easier your life will be because, you started early. And then you get, it's like compound interest, it has a much more powerful effect the sooner you start. So get mentors and then talk to them outside of class, and then be involved in your clubs. If there's a history club or a biology club or whatever, be involved in that and become secretary or vice president or whatever, and that sounds ridiculous, but that looks really good when you're applying for a scholarship. And people think I need a scholarship to get into college, and I didn't get a scholarship the first year I had to borrow money. They forget you can get a scholarship for later in college.
Yeah. You can keep going with them.
Yeah, and so I was a very bright student, and I had fantastic test scores, but I was a lazy student, and I wasn't great about doing my homework. So my test scores were really good, but my GPA was just average. And so I didn't get a scholarship to college. But once I got to college, I decided, okay, now it's time to buckle down. And I started, I started getting on the dean's list. I was on the honor roll. And because of that, in my later years of college, I got scholarships and grants, and which let me go, travel around the world to do research with exciting people. Because I'm from a small town in Indiana, and my parents, both retired from Chrysler, and we didn't have any money, but you can still get, if you work hard enough, you can get scholarships while you're there. And then, of course, if you're going to go on to graduate school after college, which is where you get your master's and your PhD, it's even more important that you can get a grant or a scholarship or an assistantship. So, you want to go for that. Yeah.
Okay. So think back to when you were in high school, a few years ago, probably 6 or 7 years ago. And just give some general advice to high school students. And I think it's great because as someone who's a professor, you are even more in tune to what college students see now. So you would say, hey, I wish this person would have known this in high school.
College will be better. Okay. So there's a lot of, many high school students really enjoy high school, and some don't enjoy it so much. I enjoyed my junior and senior year much better than I enjoyed my freshman and sophomore year. Um, the the but College is better. It's more fun. It's more exciting, and it sort of consumes you like something, like when you're doing something that you really love. Okay, and then you lose track of time. Okay, that's called a flow state psychologically, and it's kind of like the state you want to be in. Mm-hmm. It both challenges you, and yet it's something that you're still able to do with effort on your part that helps you grow as an individual. When you're in high school, there's the stresses of like home and parents, and also friends, in addition to your coursework and that sort of thing. But I'll tell you that, like, a lot of the thing, like, lots of times when you're in high school, the thing you focus on most is like the social aspect, and you're like, perhaps happy that you're popular, or not as happy because you're not as popular, or you're competing with someone else who's really popular, and there's that competition going on. The odds are that most of the people that you are interacting with, and you're worried about how that socialization is going, you won't grow. After high school, you won't spend a lot of time around those people. And then you'll meet them at reunions, and then they'll all sit there and say, "Oh my God, can you believe how we behaved when we were in high school?" Okay. So that's not the social component of high school. That's not probably where you're going to meet your spouse. It's not really where you're going to like meet the people that you work with and spend most of your time with. What's most important is, high school is there to prepare you to be an adult, and an adult who can make their own choices, an adult who has choices to make, and is not, let's say, like, trapped because they didn't finish and get their education. An adult who can choose to do something that they find fulfilling and also pays them well. So there's nothing like enjoying a job that pays you well. Right. Okay. And working with people who respect you and whom you respect.
Yeah, okay? Absolutely.
And so in many ways, don't focus so much on the social aspect, because that will all disappear. And the part that you should have been focusing on, which is the part that enables you to make your own choices, often we put, like in high school, you put on the back burner instead of on the front burner, right? Yeah. And I can tell you too. So you think, you either think I'm not confident and it shows, or you think I'm not confident and I'm afraid everyone will figure it out. Because I'll tell you, no one is confident. No one is as confident as they pretend to be. Even the people who appear to be confident, and you're worried about that, and everyone has their own stresses, and everyone only understands. Everyone only really understands their own problems, which seem large because no one really understands everyone else's. And we spend a lot of time, thinking about that, and realize that that's just like part one, and it's in part two, the sequel, where most of that work gets done.
Right.
So focus on and be have a growth mindset. So the point is, so like if you're a freshman, okay, more now than you did in 8th grade. You're going to know more when you're a junior than you are as a freshman, and more as a senior than you did as a junior. You're growing, not just in size, but in knowledge, which allows you to have more choices. Don't assume don't think I'm the kind of person who can't do that, or I'm not the kind of person who can do that. Now, maybe you're not, but that's not true tomorrow. Okay. And the whole system is actually designed to help you to grow so that you can make more choices. Believe it or not, you, the other teachers, we're there to actually, even when we're frustrated, because you're not listening to us, perhaps, we're there to help you. And in fact, not only do we want to do it, which is why we chose that as a role, but we kind of have to because we're paid to do it. Right. It's our job. And and you wouldn't buy a car and then not drive it. Okay. Yeah, well, you or your parents have paid for this education. Okay. So you might as well use it, because it allows you to do a lot of cool stuff. So don't cheat yourself of what you've been given.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. Just take advantage of what you got and your skills, and always keep growing. Shawn Hurst, the lecturer in biology at University of Indy, Dr. Shawn Hurst. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Got to keep that in there. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.